Your brand may be staying on top of current trends, but are you agile enough to stay relevant, resilient, and successful as customers, competition, and the world continues to change at a breakneck pace? I'm thrilled to share the newly revised version of my first book, The Agile Brand. I'm calling it The Agile Brand Revisited. It's been updated to reflect our continually changing world, and it provides 7 principles that form the backbone of an agile brand, offering detailed insights and actionable steps for incorporating them into your business strategy. This is the book that started it all, and I'm excited to share it with you. It's now available in print and digital formats and available everywhere. Learn more by going to the Agile Brand Guide website at www.agilebrandguide.com. Welcome to Season 4 of The Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom, where we discuss business agility through customer experience, employee experience, and digital transformation. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom. The Agile World podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To read more about the topics discussed on this show, you can go to my website at gregkihlstrom.com and read my latest articles or get a copy of my latest book, Meaningful Measurement of the Customer Experience, now available on Amazon and other retailers. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to a new sponsor of the show, Basecamp. Throughout my career, whether it was at my own agency or now as a consultant, Basecamp is what I've always relied on to help keep projects on track, on schedule, and on budget. It takes a straightforward approach to project management, it streamlines workflow management, and definitely keeps the team in the loop and on top of ongoing updates, which are all major components in a smooth-running operation. No matter if it's a simple campaign or a multi-million-dollar project, Basecamp has been a key ingredient in the recipe for a successful project and business. Go to basecamp.com/agile and sign up today to start a free 30-day trial. There's no credit card required, and you can cancel online at any time. If you want to know if Basecamp is right for your team, signing up for that free trial is the best way to do so. Remember to go to basecamp.com/agile, that's basecamp.com/AGILE to get your free trial. Thank you, Basecamp, for sponsoring this episode. Now, let's meet our guest. My name is Greg Kihlstrom, and I'm the host of the Agile Brand podcast. Brands have never had so much choice in the way that they reach their customers, but at the same time, this means that customers are flooded with branded messages on email, text, voice, mobile push notifications, and more. And more is not necessarily better. According to a recent report by CSG, where my guest today is from, the volume of notifications increased by 270% through voice channels and a whopping 950% via SMS channels in the last year alone. Clearly, this isn't sustainable, and brands are suffering by losing their customers' attention. Today, we're going to talk about breaking through the notification noise to drive real customer engagement with tangible results. To help me discuss this topic, I'd like to welcome Mark Smith, Vice President, Digital Engagement Solutions at CSG and former President of Kitewheel. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Greg. Super pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to talking about this with you. So why don't we start with you giving a little background on CSG and your role at the company?
Yeah, for sure. So CSG, we're a 40-year-old business, billion-dollar global company focused on helping typically large organizations deliver great experiences to their customers, making it easy for customers to do business with the organization in terms of using services, paying for services, getting support for services. So we're essentially a SaaS business where, with 5,000 employees or so across the globe, helping make a difference in what is an incredibly important area right now for all businesses, which is that, customers make decisions on who they do business with based on experience and the experience they get more than anything else. And so the kind of things we do are a big part of helping a wide range of companies deliver a better and better experience every day to their customers.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, and we're here to talk just about that. So, talking about breaking through the clutter. And, in the report from CSG that I mentioned at the top of the show, which is called Context is Key, How to Break Through the Notification Noise to Drive Customer Engagement, there's several reasons why this barrage of notifications is falling short. Can you talk about some of the ways that these notifications can actually backfire?
Yeah, for sure. And, there's a set of things that kind of go wrong when brands over communicate, and it's not always done for completely nefarious reasons. Brands aren't being evil by doing this.
Right.
Often it's just over enthusiastic, should we say. But the over communication, probably the top thing that it does is it makes communication irrelevant. And we all kind of know this and experience this. It's funny, there was actually a report in Inc. magazine that I saw on LinkedIn just yesterday, Greg, about one business, Pottery Barn, who are being called out for kind of just mass over communication with their customers. Customers are getting 20, 30 messages a week.
Oh, geez.
And one of the big things that creates is this idea of sort of mental opt-out. You're not necessarily clicking the button and unsubscribing and preventing further communication, but you never read you get so many, you just don't read them. And that not only does it annoy a whole bunch of customers, it's just too much, but many people they just blank on those emails coming in. And so the brands frantically thinks it's communicating and sending its messages out, but they're just not even being received or read by the customer. So there's just the danger of becoming completely irrelevant and ignored is a huge danger for businesses.
Yeah.
Second is getting the kind of the timing wrong. You can have the best marketing campaign and the best message for a customer, and you could even use fantastic analytics that predicts exactly what this customer needs. But if you don't get your timing right on delivering that message, if you try and upsell a customer right in the middle of a complaint that they've got, or you send out a marketing campaign when their systems are down and you've got an outage, that disconnect shows that you're not really listening.
Yeah.
And again, it frustrates the customer. And all of that great work that went into the analytic model and the message and the great marketing activity falls completely flat because you get the timing wrong, because you're not smart about when you communicate.
Yeah.
And so one of the big results that we've got in this space, and I feel, Greg, is this really moving the industry to a whole new level, is this idea of less is more, and getting better results by actually communicating less, by being more intelligent about which communications go out. And by sending less, you can actually deliver better business results. And it's kind of counterintuitive to the way the database marketing industry is run for the last 20, 25 years, where it was just sort of assumed that the more you send, the better numbers will come back in terms of sales. We've actually shown now with some of the largest brands in the country that actually know sending less will get you increased sales and increased engagement.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. I know one of the classic advertising mantras or whatever is, you need X amount of impressions to get a sale or whatever, but that's really interesting to hear. And I think that's a testament to the other things you mentioned, which is relevance and timing and everything. So all that said, why is it so tempting for marketers and others at brands to send so many notifications? Or maybe another way of looking at it, what other hurdles may be standing in the way of well-intentioned brands that maybe even know some of this stuff, but keep doing the wrong thing? Is it lack of consistent strategy? Is it operational, technical, all of the above? What do you think there?
Well, good question. So I guess I think there's a mix of two problems. Many organizations have both. So one is this kind of the remaining kind of old school approach to customer communication, the inside out approach to communication, where brands believing they've got such a great offer, it's all just about getting that offer out to the customer. And this mentality of I know I'm going to get terrible response rates. They're down at the 0.01% response rate, but that's just the nature of it. It's really low. So if I want more responses, I just send more. Right. Now, that old school approach, I think there's lots of evidence building now that, there's a new and better way where you should send less. And it's a law of diminishing returns actually going on. But the other problem that's in many organizations is the siloed approach to communication, that each product group, each business division, they run and decide on the communication plans themselves, and there's no kind of central control. And that leads to lots of duplication, and it can lead to cross messaging and confusing messaging for the customer. But it's also a classic, the new customer, the new name on the file is everybody's favorite target, and everybody just jumps on and starts communicating with them. And every product group wants to target the same best customers. And those the smart organizations are bringing in a central point of control to oversee that. And so it's an organizational challenge to get everyone to buy in, that you can't just do anything you want to do. There's a central command and control that oversees the customer, as, at the end of the day, they're the one thing that really matters. And so you can't just send anything you want to those customers. You have to do it in collaboration with your colleagues in different parts of the business, so that the business comes across as connected and sensible and all those good things. So, but it's a mix of that siloed approach and the old school over communication approach that is the biggest barrier, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's a great way of framing it. So to move from that as well is, let's talk about then, how do we do this well? How do we move on from that old school approach and the siloed approach? So as far as the right way to approach things, the report I mentioned earlier has what's called the STAR framework, STAR. So see, think, act, react. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about this and how brands can use it successfully?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk a little bit about what the STAR items are. So, the S is for C, which is really all about, getting a full view of the customer, building a picture of the customer you can look at. Essentially comes from listening to that customer's activity, seeing what they do, which channels they visit, when they visit them, and building that full picture of the customer and if you like, the journey that they're on with you, how they change through time, what products they've already got, what things they're looking into, which channels they like to use. That sort of being able to see all of that allows a business to then make the right decisions. You can use that data to make real-time decisions about customers. And that's the think bit, the T in STAR, is really it's about intelligence at the end of the day. If you have the ability to see everything about your customer and their behavior right down at the individual level, and really think about what's the right thing to do with them given this pattern of behavior. And for us, what's so important is that thinking is journey focused. Yeah. It's not just single point in time. Hey, we've got Greg on the line and he's bought this product in the past, so obviously we've got to sell him this product. If it's really, you've got to take this bigger context of the whole journey that Greg, the customer, is on, make decisions based on that bigger context, allows you to truly do the next best thing for that customer. And that's a decisioning challenge. And the key there is you've got to be able to do that decisioning in real time. That thinking has to be a real time thing, because sometimes you need to act immediately. You need to reach out to that customer. They're on the phone talking to an agent. They're on the website checking out some content. You've got that moment is the moment to capture their interest and talk to them. And so you need the ability to act, which is the A in STAR. And sometimes it's really critical that you act in real time, because that's the opportunity you've got, or you'll lose that customer. There's lots of kind of use cases that need that real time piece. Now, the R is there. The R in STAR is about react, because you don't necessarily want to always act too quickly, right? A, because I mentioned this earlier, there may be something else going on with that customer right now. They're in the middle of a complaint process. Right. And so you don't suddenly turn it to a sales conversation, for example. It could also be that you're going to appear a little bit creepy and spooky, right, if you go too quickly back on their recent web behavior. And the right approach with a customer is to just store away everything you see and use it the next time. Next time you see that customer, next time they're in a store, that's when you want to make that offer. And so getting the timing right is critical. Now, so that's our process at CSG, is to take the customer through that STAR framework, and our technology, our software runs all aspects of that see, think, act, and react process. But what's really important is that we do it totally independently of the channels. This is a tool that can be used by that overseeing control function to balance activity in different channels. It's not connected in and wired. It's not built into a channel and therefore restricted to a channel. The key is to be able to do that see, think, act, and react across all channels, and see customers bouncing between channels. And so that, our whole approach is this channel independent, channel agnostic way. And that's so important for breaking down some of that siloed stuff I was talking about earlier, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think it's such a good approach to have that layer that you're talking about for so many reasons. So that said, what are some of the platform components that the brands need in place in order to enact something like what you just described?
Well, so, it's funny. A big thing for us is the easy answer is none, right? It's what you've already got. And that's what we see with so many of our customers. They've already invested millions in, the best call center technology, the best marketing platforms, the best websites. They've put new technology in their stores, Wi-Fi enabled networks, beacons, whatever it may be. They've already invested so much in the ability to communicate. The key to get this stuff right is the intelligence layer that just makes the right communication go out. It's going to go out through those channels that they already have and those platforms they already have. It's this layer of intelligence that in an ideal setting can just plug in to the existing investment. It's no rip and replace of whole new systems here to get the next smart. CSG's whole approach is about plugging those smarts into the existing infrastructure.
That's great. Well, so my first introduction to CSG was actually due to the acquisition of Kitewheel, which a platform I'd used in my consulting work and where you were president. And you oversaw some tremendous growth there. So I'd like to talk a little bit more specifically about customer journey orchestration. I think we've been touching on it, this whole time, but just talk about customer journey orchestration and its importance in all of the things we've talked about. So first, for those that may be a little less familiar with that term, can you describe the difference between what customer journey orchestration does and something like marketing automation, which may be a little more familiar?
Yeah, and often confused, right. I would say, and as this sort of approach of journeys and journey centricities become so important for businesses. Of course, everybody wants to be a journey system these days, and so one big difference there, Greg, is I mentioned earlier the sort of inside out approach of marketing tools, which is, hey, I've got a great message, I've got to get it out. A journey is much more about outside in. It's much more centered on the customer themselves and what the customer's doing. And the journey is something that belongs to the customer. It's a two-way communication, not a one-way communication. It goes across all channels and is kind of driven by the customer, the experience that the customer's getting as they try and do business with an organization. So a journey orchestration should link to marketing tools. So you still need to send outbound messages, right? That's all part of the journey. Is sometimes you communicate, sometimes the customer communicates with you. Okay. And so the key difference between journey orchestration and marketing automation is that journey orchestration links to marketing systems, sales systems, service systems, and oversees the whole two-way multi-channel dialogue with a customer. Whereas marketing is, very focused on the sending out of those communications. And unfortunately, some of those tools still call it a journey, even though it really just is 5 outbound communications.
Right. I've seen that.
And so it's this
Yeah.
outside in thinking of wrapping around the customer and their experience. That's what journey orchestration is all about.
Wonderful. Well, I know we have talked about this a bit, but why is customer journey orchestration so powerful when it's done well?
Well, it's actually a short, simple answer to that is that the new competitive battlefield for almost all businesses is what experience they're delivering. Product and price, the old P's of marketing are sort of, decaying away and are all becoming commodity. And the real new competitive differentiator is experience. And customers now over and over again choose the brands they want to do business with based on the experience they get. Is it easy to buy what I want? Is it nice to buy what I want? Do I get great service and support from this business? And that's what's differentiating who wins and loses. And so, that's where journey orchestration can be the system that runs that for your business, right?
Yeah.
That makes that experience the right experience for the customer. And so I think that's why there's so much interest in it, so much talk about organizations becoming more and more journey centric in their thinking. I actually was on a webinar last week with Forrester where they were talking all about this. It's kind of like the new transformation effort, just like digital transformation has been all the rage for 10 years. It's now this transformation to becoming journey centric. As an organization, it's all driven by delivering great customer experience.
Well, yeah, definitely. There is definitely a lot of talk about this, and there's a lot of statistics and numbers out there pointing to its effectiveness as well. So, since it can have such a positive impact on experience, which to your point is central to most businesses' strategy these days and to ROI, why is it so challenging for some organizations to adopt journey orchestration?
Yeah, and it is. You're absolutely right to say it's challenging. There's still, even though everybody knows how important customer experience is as a differentiator, still, the stats are still pretty poor in terms of it's only a couple of % of organizations that are regarded by their customers as delivering a great experience,
Yeah.
And that's because it's hard, and I have touched on some of the reasons why it's hard. The fact that you need to be real time is a challenge for lots of practitioners. It's a new way of thinking to be ready to do something in real time, that it isn't all command and control pre-planned. That's a challenge for a lot of marketers. All right. Yeah. The idea of going cross department and across the organization can need a new organizational structure, which is obviously it's going to be a challenge. It's going to take time to put that in place and to turn an organization to be truly customer centric. It can be a whole new approach that requires a new C-level executive to channel down a whole new organization. And so those things make it a tough, lengthy kind of process. Now,
the reality is striking. While we can stream movies on demand and order anything to our doorstep within a click, healthcare interactions often feel needlessly complex. Healthcare marketers, this one's for you. In Shop, Stream, Heal, author Adeline Ashley shares actionable insights from industry leaders like Netflix, Amazon, and Delta, showing how healthcare can thoughtfully adapt their winning strategies. This isn't about technology for technology's sake. It's about making healthcare more accessible, intuitive, and human. Drawing from real-world successes and lessons learned, the book shows you how to create healthcare experiences that truly meet patient needs while preserving clinical excellence. Shop, Stream, Heal by Adeline Ashley features a foreword from Dave O'Flanagan, CEO of Sitecore. It's published by the Agile brand and now available in print and digital formats on Amazon. Go to shopstreamheal.com for more information.
The good news is there's a huge amount of value there. There's some, amazing stats actually on that Forrester webinar I mentioned. They were covering these stats like a 30% cost saving by getting the journey right, or a 15% growth in sales by getting the journey right. The value is huge, and of course, but you don't get huge values like that for nothing. It's not, if it were easy, everybody would have 15% extra sales growth,
Right.
So it is something. And the good news is, thank you for mentioning the Kitewheel history here, Greg. But that history goes back almost 10 years now of real experience helping people get going in this. And we've at CSG, we spend a lot of time wrapping all of that know-how into a set of tools to help clients kind of make early decisions to get on the right track. Maturity assessment tools so that they start from the right point, and ROI tools so that they can figure out what's going to be the most valuable thing to do. So those kind of best practices, they are available now in the market to help guide folks, because it is a real journey to the journey, I often say. And it's going to take time and investment for sure. The good news is there's these huge rewards possible when you get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've personally seen those results as well in my work. And so, maybe to make it even more practical for the listeners here, could you maybe give an example of how an organization can use customer journey orchestration to be more successful?
Sure. I'll give a couple. I'll go back to one.
Sure.
I mentioned earlier the big retailer, one of the largest retailers in the States, if not in the world. They made this fundamental shift to stop sending so many communications. And what's interesting was it was driven by their desire to go to a journey style of communication. So multiple connected communications to nudge your customer down a particular kind of track. And they realized that they already sent so many communications that if they added journey type communications as well, they were going to go really into overload. So did a whole research project on could sending less deliver more. The results seemed positive. So they went all in. They now send anywhere from 40 to 80% less communications out to customers on a monthly basis,
Wow.
but add $10+ million of incremental revenue.
Wow.
On the back end. So huge reduction in overall volume, really significant increase in sales. Is like an amazing kind of win-win.
Yeah.
So that's on sales growth. A quick other one, we helped, again, one of the largest banks in the country save a huge amount of their employee time by taking a journey approach to communicating with customers around kind of important events. So payments, potential fraud activity, new product applications, collections processes, all of those things used to be sort of single action, big blast kind of communications, that they moved to a more journey approach of multiple touches, potentially on different channels, to kind of make sure the message got through to the customer. And what that saw was about a 30% drop in kind of unnecessary inbound calls from customers saying, hey, what's this all about? Because they knew they had got the context ahead of time through the right kind of communication.
Yeah.
So they didn't need to call and say, why am I getting this demand letter? Or what's the problem with someone's got my credit card and I've got a fraud notification? If you get the communication right on the right channel, they don't need to call for help.
Right.
And what that 30% reduction is just massive. That could immediately be a big cost saving, but it also is a frees up the skilled staff on the customer support side to do, more complex things and spend more time with higher value activities with customers. So, let alone the huge improvement in the customer experience that you don't have to make a call to the call center and wait in line. And no one likes to do that. So
right.
Feeling the confidence that you've got the right information such that you don't need to make that call is actually a great thing for the customer. Most customers love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one last question before we wrap up here. For those organizations that are, maybe they haven't started yet, or they're just getting started thinking through what customer journey orchestration can mean to their organization and how to approach it, what advice would you give to them as they begin their own journey?
Yeah, well, talked a little bit about this earlier. It's a huge thing that we're spend a lot of time working on here at CSG. Is this, we realize it's getting into this space. There's a sort of big barrier knowing what to do and how to do it. And so we have a set of tools that can help get started. These sort of maturity assessment approach that allows you to know where you are. And that's so important to be able to set a realistic goal of what can be achieved this year, next year, knowing your capability set in your organization is a critical kind of starting point for that. We then have a consulting team that can run workshops to evaluate all the different options for journeys and essentially help choose what's the right starting point, which is the best first journey to work on. Everybody starts with kind of one journey and then builds out. You got to get your metrics right. So, lots of organizations have lots of reports on web activity, call center activity, marketing activity, new metrics that focus on journey-centric things and what journeys are running and which customers are going through them and successfully buying things, successfully getting help, having a great experience. Key to get the metrics right on that. And then, somewhat overused phrase these days, but it really is a crawl, walk, run kind of approach. Organizations that dive in and try and do everything, immediately connect every channel and put every process out there as a journey are going to trip over themselves, right? For running too quickly. You've got to start with one high value but relatively easy to implement journey that may connect just 2 or 3 channels, and then build on that experience to expand out and add channels in, add new journeys in, very much a crawl, walk, run kind of approach.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining the show. For those listening, what's the best way for them to keep up with what you're doing at CSG?
Go to csgi.com, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter. I love hearing from people, anybody interested in some of the stuff that I've said here. I'm mark.smith@csgi.com. So feel free to email me there. And Greg, I just want to say thank you. Really appreciate the conversation today and the opportunity to appear on your great podcast.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, yeah, again, I'd like to thank Mark Smith, Vice President, Digital Engagement Solutions at CSG, for joining the show. Thanks for listening to The Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom. Talk with you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom podcast, brought to you by Tech Systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe on your podcast channel of choice and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.theagilebrand.show. To get a copy of my latest book, Meaningful Measurement of the Customer Experience, visit my website at gregkihlstrom.com. Until next week, stay agile.